Longtime followers of my channel might know that while I've built many weird off-the-wall strategies, the one that I'm most proud of is Scourge Fluffal Burning Abyss. It was a deck that I basically created from scratch and I fine-tuned over a variety of formats, and it's one that I'm pretty much the most proud of in terms of deck building because it's fairly unique and no one has really been able to replicate the success that my friend Austin and I actually first saw with it, where he got his first invite with it, and then I almost got a top 8 at a regional using the same strategy, basically. And with Link Summoning, it kind of hampers it. I'm not going to lie to you. However, on the recent Forbidden Limited list, I felt that there were a lot of changes that actually helped this deck. The main one being is that without Zodiacs in this picture, this deck pretty much just has good matchups across the board because the goal is to use your Scourge effect to put your opponent down to 0 cards. And with Zodiacs, they could just top deck any Zoo monster and you would be kind of in a bad position. But now that those are out of the game, pretty much at least, if the results of the UDS going on right now are telling us anything in terms of how relevant the deck's going to be. Without Zoo in the format, though, you can safely put your opponent down to 0 cards and know that they probably won't be able to make a play for 1 or 2 or 3 turns, by which point you hopefully can just kill them. Now, you can't spam Dantes like you used to be able to in this deck, but you can still do a lot of the good things in this deck in terms of actually resolving the combo, so I still think it's fairly viable. But anyway, let me get into the deck profile now that I've rambled on long enough, because there are a lot of updates from the last time I played this, because I don't think I've actually updated this since Link Summoning's been around. The first obvious 3 is 3 Scourge, Nerealis, or however you pronounce that name. Now, it's kind of hard to see on camera because they're these beautiful ultimate rares. But if you know what this card does, it basically has a really hard summoning condition that requires you to banish 1 Light Fairy and 3 Dark Fiends from your graveyard. But when it's on the field, you can pay 1,000 life points. Both players send all cards in their hand and field to the graveyard, and then you draw 1 card. So the main goal with this is to summon it, or is to resolve that effect while you control Burning Abyss monsters, so that those resolve. Both you and your opponent go on to 0 cards. You draw a card, and then all your Burning Abyss monsters activate, and you're up to like 4 or 5 cards to their 0. Now, while summoning it is possible in this deck, the main thing we want to do is use Phantom of Chaos. So Phantom of Chaos, great card, pretty straightforward. All you got to do is banish a monster in your graveyard, copies its name, stats, but more importantly, it copies its effect. So how we're usually resolving Scourge is by putting it in the graveyard, either by milling it with Dante or Foolish Burial or Fiendish Rhino Warrior, and then normal summoning Phantom of Chaos to copy its effect. And that's really powerful. It's fairly consistent, or at least it used to be, and I'd say even now it's still relatively consistent. But this is sort of the bread and butter of the deck, and how you win all of your games is by doing this combo. Now, if we move on to what makes up the rest of the deck, our main goal is to just turbo out that setup where we have a couple Burning Abyss monsters and then the Scourge Engrave with the Phantom Chaos on field. So for the Fluffals, we play 2 Fluffal Bear, 2 Fluffal Wings. Fluffal Wing, I believe, is one of the most powerful level 1 monsters in terms of plussing that isn't banned right now. Level 1 monsters have a history of not having very much attack points, but being very good in terms of effects. Fluffal Wing is no exception. It's a +2 when you activate it. You trade an on-field Toy Vendor and an Engrave Fluffal Bear to draw 2 cards and then search another copy of either one of these. It also has the added utility of being a Light Fairy, so if you need to summon the Scourge the normal way, you can banish the Fluffal Wing. The advantage of this is that you can actually get the Fluffal Wing in graveyard through Dante, and you can also add either one of these cards to your hand by milling a Toy Vendor, which we're playing 3 of. But the Fluffals are a really important draw engine just for digging into stuff, and they're really cool because they you get your sort of setup of having, basically you just need a bear in hand and a wing in grave to get the combo going, and you can get that just by doing your regular normal milling. For the Burning Abyss monsters, it might look a little weird if you never played this deck, but basically we want to play as few multiples as possible, because a lot of times with this deck you see most of your deck on your first turn. So we're only playing 2 Skarm, 2 Farfa, and then just a whole bunch of one-ofs. So we have Graf, Seer, Kelcab, Libic, Alec, and Barbar. Barbar has some cool moves with the new card I just added that we'll talk about in a second. But overall, pretty straightforward here. Like I said, you don't want to play any really multiples besides Farfar and Scarm because they're too important. But you don't really need a lot of copies of these cards because mainly you're just using these to make the Dante to get you to their mills. Scarm being the exception because you want to search Tour Guide in the end phase, and then Farfa being the other exception because you want to send it with Beatrice during your opponent's turn. We are playing the 1 copy of Tour Guide. This card's really important because after you Sky Scourge your opponent, if you don't have a lot of Burning Abyss effects, you need to do damage really fast, and adding the Tour Guide in the end phase can do a lot of damage by getting you to a Dante, by getting you to a Graph, whatever you need to sort of seal the deal. Ideally, Tour Guide can close out the game in 2 turns, which doesn't give your opponent a lot of time to draw it out. We are playing 3 Fiendish Rhino Warrior. It is, I think, the only hard ones per turn 3 of. Let me just flip through. Yeah, it's only hard ones per turn 3 of. For a while, I was only playing 2 because I don't really want to play any 3-ofs in a deck that are hard ones per turns. However, Fiendish Rhino Warrior, especially now that we have a lot less access to Dantes, is increasingly important. So not only can you send the Sky Scourge with this, you can also send any Burning Abyss with this. You can also send the Phantom of Chaos if you happen to have a Monster Reincarnation in your hand, which just makes it so versatile, so useful that we have to play 3. I am teching 1 Stygian Street Patrol. This was a card that I tried out before Lynx, and it didn't have a lot of success, but now that we don't have as many Dantes, a lot of times you need to get the Phantom of Chaos out of your hand, because one of the big drawbacks of this deck is that a lot of times you need to use your normal summon on the Phantom of Chaos, which makes it kind of tricky if you open Tour Guide and Phantom, but the Stygian Street Patrol can get it right out of your hand, pretty useful, and you can sign it with Rhino Warrior. For the spells, a lot of 3-ofs here. So we have 3 Toy Vendor, really important. The main thing here is that you can mill it and then it still gets its search effect. 3 Monster Reincarnation, without a doubt the best spell in the entire deck. Monster Reincarnation does everything. It gets bad cards out of your hand. It gets Phantom of Chaos back in your hand. Anytime that you open a way to discard Fiendish Rhino Warrior and then also Monster Reincarnation, you have the combo right there. It's just really good. There's so many different ways that you can use this card. Pretty much anytime you open Monster Reincarnation, you can then get the combo off, which is really important. We also are playing 3 Allure of Darkness to turbo through our deck. It's also a card that is going to be increasingly relevant when you see my tech choice I'll talk about in a couple seconds here. 2 Pot of Desires. This is just like Ash bait, basically. You only really need the 1 Phantom of Chaos and 1 Sky Scourge for the combo to go off. You don't really care about banishing too many other things, so Pot of Desires is fine. Even if they Ash it, that means they're not going to Ash your more relevant cards, so that's good. 2 Transmodify, pretty cool card. Basically, if you can summon Dante, well, actually, if you open Tour Guide Transmodify, then you're golden, because you go Tour Guide and Fiendish Rhino Warrior, make a Dante, attach the Rhino Warrior, mill a Sky Scourge, and then with Rhino, send Graph Special, any Burning Abyss, usually Scarm, Transmodify out the Phantom of Chaos. I don't want to play in multiples, though, because you never want to actually resolve multiples. The tech card that I've been talking about is 2 DDR. Another card that wasn't completely necessary when we didn't have Lynx or when we had triple Terratop and stuff like that, but now the deck's lacking a little bit in speed. This card does a lot of things that Monster Reincarnation does. The special summon isn't the more important part. In this deck, the more important part is the discard, so you can get the Sky Scourge out of your hand so you can copy it with Phantom of Chaos. However, this does open up some really easy combos, such as if you open Allure of Darkness, Phantom of Chaos, and Sky Scourge, you can Allure of Darkness, banish the Phantom of Chaos, DDR, discarding Sky Scourge to bring back the Phantom, and then copy its effect. So that's pretty cool, and I like it as a 2-of. Lastly, we have the 2 all-encompassing Sacky 1-ofs, Soul Charge and Foolish Burial. If you open, well, I don't know so much with Foolish Burial. I mean, it's a really powerful card, but if you open Soul Charge, you probably will win. That's pretty much how it goes in this deck, because then you can get the Rhino Engrave, mill a Graph, special summon a Scarm, then Soul Charge the Rhino and the Graph. Alternatively, you can Rhino for Phantom of Chaos and Soul Charge them both back. Just a lot of good plays with Soul Charge. Obviously, pretty good card. For the extra deck, we are playing 3 copies of Dante. You don't really make 3 very often anymore, at least not on your first turn, but you definitely need all 3 when you get into the second and third turn after you've done the combo. 1 Beatrice, once again, ideally you're going to, after the turn you do the combo, you're going to summon the Beatrice to sort of secure your win. 1 Pilgrim, it's almost never going to be summoned because people usually just try to out the Beatrice without actually triggering its effect, but in the cases that they do out it, you'll definitely want the Pilgrim in there. 2 copies of Levier, pretty good for the same reasons that DDR. is mainly just getting back the Phantom of Chaos after you banish it with a lore. 1 Grampulse. This card's main utility is popping your own copy of Toy Vendors to search a different Fluffal. That's pretty good. Comes up every once in a while. 1 Breaksword. This isn't really for going first. It's just for the games where you go second. You'll actually need something to play through their cards. And by the way, if you ever do play a deck at a tournament, you can look at my older builds where I have this side deck included, but you usually side out of most of the combo, the Phantom of Chaos and Sky Scourge when you go second, and just side into like more like back row removal and board wipes that you can just OTK your opponent, because it's still a really powerful deck without that combo, just a really aggressive Burning Abyss strategy. But I just thought I should mention that. 1 Mech Equipped. This card's cool because it's a light fairy, so you can banish it for Sky Scourge. That used to actually be pretty hard to do. You basically had to summon this with an active Farfa and then make Utopia F0. Now with Lynx, though, that's like the one benefit that this Lynx have to this deck, is that you can summon this and then instantly use it for a Lynx summon, and then that puts the light fairy in the grave. So that's kind of cool. 1 Nightmare Shark for closing out games. We have Giga Brilliant and Leviathan Dragon. One thing that happens with this deck is you'll get to like 10 cards left in deck, and you can't keep milling for Dante because you'll deck yourself out. It's happened to me at tournaments, actually. And even though the deck is 42 cards, you still are very likely to deck yourself out between all the milling, all the searching, and the Pot of Desires. So these cards are meant to close out games without having to mill cards like with Dante. The only Link monsters we're playing are Proxy Dragon and Decode Talker. Nothing really surprising there. When the Burning Abyss monster that is a Link comes out, I'm assuming we'll play it in this deck, almost certainly, as long as it's not complete garbage. But for now, just these two, because they're pretty much the best thing that you can play in this particular strategy. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could try to play 1 MX Saber Invoker, and then a Missus Radiant with 1,000 Blades in the main deck. But then if you mill 1,000 Blades with like a Dante, you're just totally screwed, which is kind of rough. So for now, just playing these two. Anyway, that was the updated version of the Burning Abyss Fluffal Sky Scourge deck. I still do like this deck a lot. It's obviously not as good, but I think with the current metagame shifts, it could be at least semi-viable. And depending on how good the Burning Abyss Link monster is, I might take it to another regional qualifier to try to get an invite or a top 8 with it. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the profile discussion video tomorrow, I think. So look forward to that, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.